Until recently, it seemed that Brendan Fraser's career was destroyed forever. For the past 10 years, he has been quietly filming in anything, and has struggled with psychological trauma, rarely showing up in public. But moviegoers continued to devoutly love the idol of the 90s, who gave them a funny George of the Jungle with the body of Apollo, the brave Rick O'Connell, and many other bright heroes. And this year, they finally had hope for the return of a talented actor to the ranks. Will Brendan Fraser not be able to miss his second chance? Today, in Biographer Express, we will talk about his career ups and downs, harassment, industrial injuries, and studios that literally exploited the actor. We will also discuss the news about his new, promising projects. Ready? Then let's start. Although Brendan started out as a little-known American actor of Canadian origin, he managed to rise quite rapidly to the level of a celebrity who was recognized on the street, and whose fee was $1 million for the project. Fraser began his career with episodic roles in films of 1990, but already in 1992, he appeared in the main roles of two profitable films, School Ties and Encino Man. Robert Mandel, the director of School Ties, who also shot such films as Murder by Illusion and The Substitute, believed in his project, although no one expected anything from him because the film had too small a budget. The only thing the director could give to the cast was a promise that after the release of the film, they would all be guaranteed to gain popularity. Which was what happened. School Ties gave a good start to many popular actors in our time, about whom no one knew at that time. It was such actors as Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Chris O'Donnell, and Cole Hauser. And of course, Brendan. For many of them, it was the first serious work in cinema and the debut in full-length film. School Ties did not become a sensational premiere, but it fully paid off, collecting $14 million at the box office, and that was only in US cinemas. The important thing is that the film has sunk into the soul of the audience, and critics have appreciated it. But Encino Man was a completely different story. The film did not hail by critics and did not appeal to the audience, and actor Pauly Shore was awarded the Golden Raspberry Anti-Award for his acting in the film. With all that highly non-optimistic scenario, the film itself did not just pay off at the box office. Moreover, with a budget of $7 million, it managed to get $40 million in American cinemas. By the way, let's draw your attention to the fact that Jim Carrey also claimed the main role in Encino Man, but the producers insisted on Fraser. That's how Brendan Fraser's career began. After 2 successful pictures in 1 year, he woke up as a popular, in-demand actor. However, despite the fact that there were a lot of offers of roles, Fraser did not always manage to make the right choice. Many films with his participation turned out to be failures. Most of all, Fraser was upset by the release of the movie The Scout. His fee in that picture was $1.5 million, but the picture itself failed at the box office. Another film with Fraser's participation, the comedy Airheads, failed at the box office too. Nevertheless, over time, the film managed to gather a fan base for which it became a cult. As for the critics, they did not appreciate Brendan's work.
I figured, I'm screwed up and average enough that I could write a song that'll live on forever. And then after that, it don't matter.
After a number of failures of various films with Brendan participation, it already seemed that everything was over. Critics criticized both the melodrama Mrs. Winterbourne and the comedy With Honors and the thriller The Passion of Darkly Noon. A little more and the actor's career hanging by a thread could be cut short, and all he would have to do would be to star in low-budget TV projects and teen comedies. But fortune smiled on Fraser once more. He stars in the 1997 family romantic adventure comedy George of the Jungle. The film received very mixed reviews, but the studio didn't care much about critics. The project turned out to be funny and good-natured, thanks to which it broke box office records with a budget of $55 million. It grossed $175 million. The audience's love brought the film a nomination for the Saturn Award in the category Best Fantasy Film. At that moment, the producers realized that Fraser could be a goldmine for them. They decided to use his appearance and talent differently than he wanted to do it himself. For example, the critically acclaimed drama Gods and Monsters, where Fraser played with Ian McKellen, received many nominations for prestigious awards, and even won an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay. But the picture failed at the box office, and therefore was not interesting to neither producers nor agents. Being quite a good-natured and non-confrontational guy in life, Brendan agreed to continue to lean on comedy and adventure films. George of the Jungle made him very popular.
You know, it's funny. People come up to me now and say, "Hey, George," or "You're that guy, George," or "Hey, it's $50 for a table dance, George."
But it's not just about the financial triumph of the film. The important thing was that thanks to that comedy, director Stephen Sommers drew attention to Fraser. It is he who will make the film The Mummy in 2 years, and will approve Brendan for the main role. Sommers was impressed by his acting work in George of the Jungle and was looking for such a light, charming, and a little ridiculous actor for the role of the main character in The Mummy. According to the director, there is nothing worse than a brutal and overly serious type for the role of the main character of an adventure film. Speaking of casting, few people know, but Leonardo DiCaprio also claimed the main role in The Mummy. However, due to the schedule, he was unable to participate in the filming. How do you like this turn of events? Can you imagine Leo as Rick O'Connell? While the film was being prepared for the shooting process, another project of Brendan Fraser managed to fail. That was the film Blast from the Past, and it wasn't even about the picture itself. There was just an overlap. The rom-com released on the same day with the fantastic comedy My Favorite Martian and the film adaptation of Message in a Bottle. The Blast from the Past lost ground at the start, which was why it failed. However, subsequently, both My Favorite Martian and Message in a Bottle also didn't get a huge success. They didn't even pay off at the box office. The success of The Mummy was a pleasant surprise for everyone, since Sommers had failed with his film Deep Rising earlier. Fraser also failed with a bunch of other films with his participation. In general, no one expected anything from The Mummy. Moreover, the producers reduced the budget of the film to a minimum, and although the team tried to keep everything under control, the script had to be rewritten repeatedly. As a result, it only slightly resembled the original text. However, Sommers was not at a loss. Many scenes were improvised, skillfully adjusted to the situation and financial possibilities. As a result, despite all the limitations, the film managed to shoot. Moreover, it became just a bestseller in the world of cinema.
Any last requests, pig?
Yeah, loosen the knot and let me go.
The Mummy collected $416 million, with a budget of $80 million. That's 5 times more. After such success, Fraser began to take on the project on condition of a fee of at least $10 million, and he did not even read the scripts. Maybe that was the problem. If The Mummy became one of the most significant premieres of '99, then the next project with Fraser's participation, Dudley Do-Right, got into the top of the most unprofitable projects of the same year. Maybe everything would have turned out differently if the film The 13th Warrior had not been released on the same day. In general, if you believe that the budget of the action movie is quite exaggerated, then we can assume that Fraser, with his role in a comedy with a $70 million budget, looks much more advantageous. However, we have what we have. The comedy, in which Jim Carrey himself claimed the main role, was a big failure, collecting only $9 million in US cinemas. It didn't even manage to get into the top 10 in the first week of release, and for a film with such a huge budget, that was a terrible failure. Dudley Do-Right has completed the directional career of its director, Hugh Wilson, known to us as the creator and screenwriter of Police Academy, as well as a number of other comedies, including the aforementioned Blast from the Past. But it could not destroy the main actor of Dudley Do-Right, although it tried very hard. Fraser has a trump card, the movie The Mummy, and he continued to film hard, despite the fact that one failure followed another. The next comedy with Fraser's participation, Bedazzled, had a little more luck. In any case, it did not become a box office bomb. However, it was not easy to recoup the cost of the film, since its budget at the production stage had to be fairly stretched. It was partly because of Fraser's fee, which was $10 million. In addition, in parallel with Bedazzled, Brendan then starred in the second part of The Mummy. In connection with that fact, the film crew had difficulties and inconveniences. It was necessary to follow the touring Fraser changing one far corner of the planet to another, and adjusting the film process to the area where The Mummy was filmed. Unfortunately, the film underwent drastic changes. During the editing period, a large number of scenes were cut out of it, due to rating restrictions. At the pre-screenings of the movie, they also resorted to the decision to throw out some episodes. For example, a scene was cut in which Elliot Richards, the protagonist of Bedazzled, gave his colleague Allison a ring with a precious stone. However, she did not appreciate his signs of attention, after which Rick, in a fit of desperation, dropped the ring into the fountain, where servants from all over the neighborhood ran. At the test screening, the scene was not perceived and asked to be cut.
Oh, Elliot, get out of there, you silly boy.
Oh, man, you are so bad.
Why, thank you.
Some deleted episodes were returned already on videotapes and in special editions to the film. The film had a fairly good box office, but no one was particularly enthusiastic about it. And this is not Fraser's last controversial project. Before the release of The Mummy Returns, he managed to star in another film with a large budget, Monkey Bone. Both Monkey Bone and Dudley Do-Right were in the top of the most failed films, but only Dudley Do-Right was in 1999, and Monkey Bone was in 2001. And although the project showed great promise, its path from pre-production to screen release was difficult and thorny. Nicolas Cage and Christopher Walken claimed the main role in the film. They also worked on the script of the film. However, at some point they left the project due to a busy schedule. After the appearance of Brendan Fraser in the project, the script changed radically. In the end, the picture collected only $7 million, with the original $75 million. The film failed at the box office, and the viewer was disappointed. And if Fraser, as we said earlier, was always protected from the end of his career by the triumphant mummy, then his partner in the Monkey Bone, Bridget Fonda, had nothing to save. After the release of the film, her career ended. Released in 2001, The Mummy Returns was not a failure, but it did not become a sensation either. It passed quietly at the box office, bringing the studio an average income. However, the audience and critics met the picture without much enthusiasm. Most likely, it was in connection with that fact that the studio did not want to immediately start the third part of The Mummy, but directed all its forces to The Scorpion King. But it didn't really excel at the box office either. Therefore, the third Mummy was delayed. There was an opinion that the studio itself was to blame for the failures with the second part of the franchise. Despite the fact that Sommers was given full creative freedom to work on the film, he was given catastrophically little time to shoot. You probably noticed that the special effects in The Mummy Returns looked obviously unconvincing and not worked out. Take, for example, the same Scorpion King. The quality of its elaboration suffered considerably due to the tight deadlines. The film was released too early and was raw. What can we say if the special effects department had to get to work just a few weeks before the release of the film and finish a week before the premiere?
Take your friends with you!
In addition, it is generally believed that Fraser's health problems began exactly on the basis of the second part of the cult adventure film. In general, Fraser started performing tricks on his own since he started the actor's career. But it was while working on the second Mummy that his dedication played a cruel joke on him. Brendan was eager to do tricks on his own again, and it got to the point that he injured his spine and also received several rib fractures and injured his knees. All those fractures and injuries greatly affected the actor's health, and he had to cope with the consequences and treat complications for many more years. And the problems with excess weight began in the same period Fraser received $12.5 million for The Mummy Returns. It was the largest fee in his entire career. He will receive approximately the same fee a few years later for The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Despite the high fees and the rather successful Mummy, the actor's career still suffered because there were too many failed pictures. He was stopped offering serious projects and given roles only in tiny, inconspicuous films with a small budget, as well as in those that were initially doomed to failure. The low-budget The Quiet American, followed by the comedy Looney Tunes Back in Action, and the fantasy Inkheart, quietly and imperceptibly failed at the box office. A small break in the series of failures of the actor was the film Crash. However, Fraser did not particularly distinguish himself in it, and all attention was focused on the work of other colleagues on the set. That was the career of an actor in the early and mid-90s. The end of the 2000s showed hopes for a beautiful return of Brendan Fraser to the cinema. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, and Journey to the Center of the Earth were released. It was two successful films starring Fraser, but that was only at the box office. The audience and critics were of a different opinion. The studio was going to work on the fourth Mummy with the working title Rise of the Aztec. The leading actors have already signed contracts, and Antonio Banderas was improved for the role of the bad guy. But it was there that the reviews of critics and viewers for the third part played a cruel joke with the project. The ratings were quite low, and the studio did not dare to produce another part of The Mummy. After a while, they will take up the work on the franchise again, but with Tom Cruise. It was rumored that the picture was rejected immediately after the preview. The test screenings were so unsuccessful that most of the scenes had to be shortened or cut out altogether. Like, for example, the episode in the finale was cut a lot. In the original, the battle scenes lasted much longer. By the time I did the third Mummy picture in China, I was put together with tape and ice, screw cap ice packs, and downhill mountain biking pads. I was building an exoskeleton for myself daily. Dedication ended with several operations such as laminectomy, knee replacement, restoration of vocal cords. In total, Fraser spent almost 7 years in clinics. Meanwhile, his career was inexorably going downhill. If it weren't for Fraser's constant failures in large and small projects, he would certainly have been approved for a role in the sequel Journey to the Center of the Earth. But it didn't work out. Disney didn't want to shoot Fraser in the second part, but instead took on the role of Dwayne Johnson. It is considered that the film Furry Vengeance of 2010 put an end to the actor's career. After it, Brendan starred only in films that were immediately released on videotapes, bypassing cinemas. But Brendan often didn't get the main roles, but flashed somewhere in the episodes. Over time, Fraser took himself in hand and began actively acting in good TV series. Perhaps his brightest role of that period can be called a guest one in the TV series Scrubs. Brendan starred in only 2 episodes, but was remembered by the viewer.
Because he never surprises us.
A little bit?
No.
Thorns! Bloody. That's good. Now this time, try and do it with your head in sort of a less jarring position. Oh, that's perfect.
The second episode with his participation is generally considered one of the most touching in the series. Notably, Brendan may not have appeared in the show. The actor reacted sluggishly to the offer of the creator of the Scrubs to send him a script, saying that he was already tired of filming and wanted to find time to train in the gym. After the showrunner sent him the script and several pairs of shorts, Brendan changed his mind. But despite such small gains, the actor continued to take part in failed, little-known projects. The actor had a lot going on back then. A painful divorce from his wife, health problems, and in 2018, he admitted that in the early 90s, at one of the events, the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Philip Burke, harassed him. Like many victims, Fraser blamed himself for what happened, and it tormented him for many years. There were many more difficult situations that affected his psychological and physical condition. But today we're talking about the career of an actor. Therefore, if you want to see his detailed biography, let us know in the comments, and we will definitely release such a video. So, Brendan Fraser disappeared out of sight for a long time. Only occasionally he appeared in cameo roles, and it seemed that we would not see the actor in something worthwhile anymore. But, as we have already said, recently fans have hope. In 2022, after many unsuccessful projects, Brendan finally appeared in a decent movie, and even in the title role. The actor starred in Darren Aronofsky's dramatic film The Whale. He played a 600-pound man suffering from compulsive overeating and trying to establish a relationship with his daughter. They say that this is the best role in Fraser's career so far. In the days of George of the Jungle, I looked differently. But my journey to where I am now has been to explore as many characters as I can, and this presented the biggest challenge to me that I wanted. I think that Charlie is by far the most heroic man that I have ever played, because his superpower is to see the good in others and bring that out in him. In that process, he's on his journey of salvation. The film premiered on September 4th at the Venice Film Festival. The audience received the movie well, and after the screening, the whole hall rose and accompanied the film with a standing 6-minute ovation. Brendan was very touched and even shed a tear. Many famous actors congratulated their colleague. For example, Dwayne Johnson tweeted that he was rooting for his success and recalled how Fraser supported him during the filming of The Mummy Returns. Fraser also received the TIFF Tribute Awards for that role. Many people predict him to win an Oscar. Earlier, the actor stated that it was an incredible honor for him to receive a statuette in the film industry, because the last time he was awarded only in childhood, when he played bowling. But it was not without unpleasant news this year. In August, the Warner Bros. Film Studios said that it decided to abandon the release of the movie Batgirl despite the fact that the filming of the picture has already been completed. It's a shame, considering that Brendan Fraser was supposed to play in the picture the role of the main villain, nicknamed the Firefly. Everyone expected that this role would bring him back to the big cinema. Whether his character will remain in the DC film universe is still unclear, but let's be optimistic. The fact that Brendan was invited to a blockbuster for one of the main roles already says a lot. The actor has several projects in his plan now, including, for example, Martin Scorsese's film Killers of the Flower Moon. And although Leo DiCaprio will be in the main role there, the invitation to filming from such a famous director cannot but please. In general, there is hope that soon he will finally get lucky. After all, Brendan is only 53 years old. Many actors at that age had just begun their careers. For example, Morgan Freeman, Liam Neeson became stars after 50. The main thing is to believe. Well, so we will believe. And while you're waiting for new films with Brendan Fraser, we suggest you learn more about the career path of Bruce Willis. How did he manage to become one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood? For which role did he receive his biggest fee? And why has he played in frankly bad films in recent years? Click on the icon that appears on your screen and watch. But before that, don't forget to like this video. Biographer Express was with you. See you soon.